My name is Amanda Holtsclaw. I am a group fitness aquatics coordinator at the facility I work at in Tennessee. I have taught group fitness classes for 15 plus years of a variety of different formats, as well as working with AAAI with training for helping more people to come into the fitness industry, just to kind of help share the love of group fitness with others. So I have worked with multiple populations, again with different formats. So a few tips and tricks, I guess, that I would like to share. One of the common things that I hear from people, or instructors rather, new instructors coming into group fitness, is that little bit of stage fright or nervousness of being a brand new group fitness instructor, mainly of the thing of, what do I do if I mess up in class? What am I going to do if I make a mistake? And my answer to that is always, your participants are not going to know if you mess up or make a mistake unless you tell them that you have. So my tip for that is to smile and to keep going. No matter kind of what format you're teaching, I usually tell new instructors, have some sort of a base move that you can come back to. So for example, if you're teaching a class that is more structured towards a cardio style class, for example, when I teach the aqua fitness certification classes, you can teach it as something where you come up with your own choreography, you can teach it interval style, and if you have forgotten of what your plan was, of what you were going to teach, have that base move of whatever it is you're coming back to. So if your goal for the aqua class is more cardio intensive, have that base move of the aqua jacks. And if you forget, what was I going to do next? Have them go back into those aqua jacks until you remember where it was you were planning on going next. Similar thing with that is if you're doing more of a strength class, same concept. You can always take your participants back into just doing squats if you forget where you are. So that is one tip that I have, is that if you forget where you are, just kind of remember to go back into that base move. And again, your participants are not going to know that you've forgotten what you had in your mind, or what you had that plan to come next, unless you tell them, or you have the deer in the headlights look. So that's one of my tips, and is don't worry and stress of thinking that you're going to mess up. Additionally, most people are there for the fitness part, one, to get a workout, and also they're coming to group fitness for the social aspect, or to have fun, to make it fun for them. So if you're continuing to smile and be positive and energetic, to make it fun. So don't worry about, again, doing something wrong or stressing out or any of that stuff.
What do you do right before class? Music?
Yeah, make sure, before class, always come to class prepared as much as you can. You can do, make sure you've got your water, restroom breaks, all of that stuff before you get going. Always make sure you do that class introduction at the beginning of class, of letting your participants know what you're there to teach, what the goal of the class is, your name. Make sure you give them any tips they might need to know about the class in general at the beginning as well. Sometimes, at least like the facility I'm teaching at, we may have 2 different classes going on simultaneously. So make sure they know, if they're walking into the room for Pilates, that they're prepared for that, and they don't think they're coming in there to get ready to do, a step aerobics class. So make sure you let them know what they're coming in for as well, and let them know equipment that they might need, and mainly just kind of welcome them to make sure that everybody's welcome. So a lot of participants will certainly come into classes of having their own spot in the room. So some of that is just kind of, my suggestion is usually just to kind of be lighthearted. Sometimes you can make a joke out of it, like people having their same church pew, let them know sometimes it's good to move around somewhere else. They get a different perspective from the room, and hopefully there's no real too much of butting heads with that. And if there ever is, you can certainly address it individually with participants, after the class is over. So tips for dealing with unruly participants, again, kind of the same thing. I usually just, you can let them know as the instructor that you're the one, you kind of have the authority in the class. You're definitely taking cues from the participants and getting feedback from them, but as the instructor, you get to be the one to lead the class and make the final say-so. or the call on things. Sometimes you may have two different people of opposing views if you've got overhead fans going, and you may have one person that says they want the fans on and somebody else saying that they don't want the fans on. So one of those things can be that as the instructor, you can decide the middle ground on how to work that. And again, same thing. Most of the time, if there is some kind of tension, it's usually better to address it one-on-one after that class is over. Yeah, so my tips usually with form are I will verbally say it as well as myself doing the move. So, for example, if I am doing a squat, I will verbally give all of the cues of, push your hips backwards, try not to push your knees forward. Imagine you're hovering over an imaginary chair behind you, chest is tall, while also showing that move. If you see somebody doing the move incorrectly, you can move around the room and try to be somewhat discreet about it. I usually tend to shy away from personally calling somebody out in the middle of class, mainly just because we don't want somebody to feel embarrassed or called out and not come back to our class. We want them to always feel welcome and feel like that they can, be successful with their goals. And then, usually one-on-one towards the end of a class, sometimes I may ask someone, say, I noticed that you might maybe need some help with some of the form. Do you mind if we work one-on-one together of seeing if we can work with your, squat or your deadlift or whatever the move might be? That's a good one too. So I usually always remind instructors whenever we're training new instructors that the class it's not our workout, it's not the instructor's workout. The workout is for those who are participating in our class. We as instructors want to make sure that we are helping show the correct form and we're keeping our energy level and motivation up for the participants. But again, it's not about us. It's about us encouraging and helping the participants who are coming to our classes as much as we can. Yeah, I would say if you're coming in as a brand new instructor to a gym, I would be prepared to possibly, show a little demo of what your skills are and, be ready to show, a small little 5-10 minute segment of a class that you can teach to show a potential employer what your skill set is. Not all employers are going to be looking for that. They're also going to be looking for what is your communication like? How can you communicate with your participants? How can you communicate with your coworkers? What is your personality as far as being positive and motivating and uplifting? So bringing all of that to the table as well. I would definitely think, whenever you come into that group fitness class that you are wanting to bring that motivation and energy. But again, a lot of it may also be of what is your communication style and how do you handle conflict? If there's potential conflict between participants in your class, or if someone who's a little bit disgruntled, how can you handle that conflict and diffuse it as much as possible as the instructor? The group fitness instructors, I think a lot of times what those facility leaders are looking for is someone who is definitely very uplifting, very encouraging, someone who can remain on the positive, because that is certainly what most people are looking for when they're coming to classes, is they're looking for somebody who's going to be encouraging of them and want to keep coming back to that. Especially if you're going to be doing any kind of jumping jacks. Yeah. Make sure you take care of yourself first. As a group fitness instructor, I will say that. So one piece of advice is to take care of yourself first. Try to make sure you're rested and you've done the basics of going to the bathroom and have water for yourself and things like that too, so that you can also still have that energy in yourself so you can give it to others. My go-to meal. Well, most of the classes I teach are usually morning classes. So my go-to meal is usually something that's a little bit carb protein mix. Some type of like a protein muffin or something like that. That's a little bit more of a carb and protein mix, so that it gives me enough energy through the class, but not something that's going to weigh too heavy on me. We've had some of that here at our place this week. So gym drama can happen among all age groups and demographics. And my advice as the instructor is that they are probably going to come to you whenever they have the conflict or the drama, and just to be listening and empathetic. Try to listen to both sides, try to understand both sides, try not to take sides or stir up anything else, but just try to let them know that you understand from both people of what they're wanting and that you hear and you understand them.